People-Ovie, Omo-agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, first, I'd like to join you in commiserating with Mr. President and the people of Nigeria on the demise of the Chief of Staff, Malam Bakari, and the others who succumbed to this disease. May their souls rest in peace. Mr. President, I also want to thank God for his mercies in granting restoration to the governor of Kaduna State, Malam El-Rufai, and I believe 2 other governors who also had challenges with this disease. We thank God for his mercies in granting them restoration, along with other Nigerians who we are told also recovered. We don't know what treatment was given to them, but whatever treatment, they have recovered. And we thank God for those mercies. Mr. President, I want to thank Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari for the proactive leadership he displayed since the commencement of this pandemic till date. But Mr. President, I would have been happier as a senator representing Delta Central Senatorial District if we had the opportunity to make our inputs at the outset. Mr. President, for some of us, we were a little bit disturbed or couldn't understand why at the initial stage, the initial lockdown was confined to only 3 states of Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja. Mr. President, if a medical wall had been erected to shield all of the other states, to barricade all of the other states from this disease, which is respiratory, I'm told, it would have made a lot of sense, Mr. President. As I stand here today, I'm still bewildered why the decision was limited to only those 3 states. Having said that, Mr. President, what concerns me the most now is the agitation, the raging agitation that's more or less trying to rush Mr. President to reopen the country. Mr. President, I'm worried. I'm very, very concerned, Mr. President. The argument has been made, or maybe to use the word of Trump, which is about the same year, that the cure should not be worse than the problem. People are very, very worried about the effect of this pandemic on the economy, justifiably so. But Mr. President, it is my belief that you have to be alive first before you can seek the benefit of a prospering economy. But Mr. President, it doesn't appear that those who are clamoring for the reopening of this economy are mindful of that. So, Mr. President, I want to say, as a historian, I may be a lawyer, but I'm also a historian. I want people to understand that I don't want us to be like the restored Bourbons of France, who forgot nothing and learned nothing. Mr. President, we know what occurred in 1918 following the Spanish flu. And we remember, for those of us who can go into the archives, how people just were agitating, just like they're agitating now. Reopen the economy, reopen the economy. And as soon, Mr. President, that was done, there was a spike. There was a spike. in the spread of that disease. Mr. President, that is 1918, 1919. I won't even go that far now. Only a week ago, in one of the states in Japan, the state where the very first, what's it called? The disease now. The COVID-19 first manifested. That was the very first state, Mr. President. And not in Wuhan, I'm talking about Japan. And that was the first state, too, that also came up with the idea of a lockdown. But because of this serious agitation, for those who believe more in the economy than life, the governor of that state was forced to reopen. It turned out to be a premature reopening. As soon as he did that, Mr. President, that state that hitherto had been able to contain this pandemic now had a spike in the spread. Mr. President, I am worried that our own President, Muhammadu Buhari, is now being pressured to also follow the same path, and I'm very, very concerned. The steady way he had handled this, the first 14 days, another 14 days, and we were making gains. He should have been allowed to follow the science, not follow the money, but follow the science in making the determination on how we should proceed to reopen the economy. Then finally, Mr. President, one of the challenges we had in the first 14 and thereafter the other 14 days was that we didn't really prepare enough by way of palliatives for our people who were being asked to go on lockdown. But the challenge is this, Mr. President. There is this misconception that it's only the federal government that has the responsibility to provide for these palliatives. Mr. President, that should not be the case. There should have been some form of integration between both the federal government and the state government. In fact, the people live in the states. They don't live here. They don't live here in Abuja. They live in the states. It is the responsibility of the state government. These are people, Mr. President, who have very, very big votes by way of security votes. Like somebody said here, I believe it was Sekibo, we are at war, Mr. President. You're talking about security vote. If you can't use it now for your people, when are you going to use it? Mr. President, I want to urge, as we continue with this motion that I support wholeheartedly, that as we move further, we should encourage the states to provide more by way of palliatives for the people in this additional one week that Mr. President has granted, and subsequently, as they move forward. I want to thank you once again, Mr. President, for this opportunity to contribute. Thank you very much.
Senator